So really appreciate everybody coming out today. Today we've got Logan Shinholser with the Contractor Growth Network, and he is going to be talking to us today about how we can turn our best projects into our best prospects. So, really excited. Appreciate you coming and spending some time with us today, Logan. Before we hop in though, one thing, just as usual, I want to remind everybody about the JobTread Pros Facebook group. It's a great opportunity to get involved, to network with other people. If you're not part of that group, do go request to join. We'll get you in there as quick as possible. And on the next one, we've got our JobTread boot camp that we want to remind everyone about. We've got the next two coming up in April 10th and 11th, and then April 17th and 18th. It's a great opportunity to take a deep dive into JobTread. If you're brand new, want to learn all the basics, it's a 2-day in-person workshop here at our headquarters in Dallas, Texas. We've got live sessions, small group time. You get to network, meet the whole JobTread team as well. And then we provide all your breakfast, lunch. We've got our networking event the first night. Same thing, second day. So everything's all included. It's $199. We'd love to see you all come out to join us there. So if you want to grab your tickets, they're in the JobTread marketplace, or you can just go to jobtread.com/bootcamp. And next up, let's see, we've got, Builder Stories. In case you're not subscribed to Builder Stories, we got new podcasts coming out every Wednesday. Really great opportunity to just, listen to other builders and contractors and how they've gotten started, the challenges that they've had, how they've overcome them, what's worked, what's not. It's a really great opportunity just to hear from others. I interview a new builder, contractor every single week. So be sure to tune into that on all of your normal, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, whatever your fancy is, we're there. And I believe, without further ado, again, want to introduce Logan here with the Contractor Growth Network, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Cool. I just assumed when you kept saying up next, that was your cue to me to update it. So, what's up, guys? Logan Shinholser, CGN. I think I'm one of the few sponsors that, if you met us at JobTread Connect, that was actually our third JobTread Connect. So that was cool to see the progression of everything moving year over year over year with JobTread. Super cool community, so I appreciate you having me on. Am I good to just jump in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. All right, beautiful. So here's what we're talking about today, guys. It's one of my favorite topics. It's story. All right, it's story and design. So about a year and a half ago, my wife and I were starting to look at doing our first remodel project around the house. So we bought the house a year and a half prior to that. It's an old 1946 house. I mean, this is like, it's plaster, which is great. Terrible for Wi-Fi, we learned. But we're having a baby, and we were like, okay, we need to make some updates to the house. And my wife was like, Logan, I want you to be in charge of finding who we're going to work with. So like, all right, cool. And what I started to do was started apparently sending over just not great people from what she was seeing. So then she said, I'll try to find somebody online. And what she did was I'm just sitting over her shoulder, and I'm just sitting here watching her, how she actually navigates a website. Right, which, I've been running this marketing agency now for 8 years. I did it for a few years before for my dad, who was a koi and pond builder up in the DC area. But it was very interesting to actually watch somebody in the wild, if you will, actually go through and decide who are we going to be working with, stuff like that. And all my wife did was she would go to somebody's website, because she went to Google, and we were trying to look up a basement project, and she was just going to Google, type it in like, basement remodeling company. I don't remember the exact thing, but as soon as she got on the website, the first thing she did was she went to their portfolio just to see what kind of work did they do. My wife is pretty type A. She definitely has a very unique design aesthetic. I kind of joke that up until we had a kid, if you walk in our house, it kind of looked like the West Elm showroom. But ultimately, she just went on somebody's website, and if the photos were not stand out to her, she, boom, left, went right back to Google, went to the next one, same thing. And I started to just watch, and I was like, oh my God, like this is how a lot of these homeowners actually shop. It's not just this, or it's not just that. Like, they really are interested in the projects themselves. And it wasn't, because up until this point, we had been doing, as a website company, a lot of gallery photos where it was just like a gallery of just a bunch of individual, like smorgasbord of just photos from the client. But in reality, my wife was like, I don't care about that. I want to see like the full thing. And that's when it really dawned on me that like, wow, like maybe there is something to this. So then we started to actually build these pages out onto clients' pages, and very quickly we started to see from the analytics that aside from the homepage, these were like the #2 most popular pages on everybody's websites. So it's now kind of taken on a thing of its own where, Google's picking these pages up and they absolutely love it. But what we're going to talk about today is what actually goes into one of these featured project pages, what makes them good, what needs to happen, because ultimately there's a formula that goes to all this, and it's all storytelling, but this is the stuff that is super, super impactful. It's a little bit different if you're in home service. You can still make it happen, but this is really primarily going to be in a more visually appealing industry where, it's tough to have a page specific to, I don't know, my AC unit went out and somebody came out here and fixed it. But as far as like selling the higher ticket, longer sales cycle items, that's what this is all about. So let me go ahead and actually show you what I'm talking about. So Rainey Blair Weidman, JobTread user, JobTread vendor now as well. Whole point of a website, truth be told, especially when you're selling super expensive stuff, not the whole point, but a big point is to create excitement. The issue that I see, and I've probably only built 700 websites at this point. One of the biggest issues that I see across the industry is that most websites, their whole goal is just to say, I'm a better this company than everybody else in the area. And a lot of people forget that when we're trying to sell a $100,000 kitchen remodel project, first off, $100,000 is the price of a really nice car. It also is going to take 8 to 16 weeks for this project versus a car, it takes 4 hours to get. At this whole thing that's taken forever to happen, you have strangers in your house. So from an actual sales perspective, we're selling something that is, unless you're, Jay-Z, very expensive, takes a long time to do, and the whole time it's not comfortable. If you don't have a kitchen, what are you doing? Like, unless they set up like a demo kitchen, it is tough to really get somebody excited to spend a lot of money on something that's painful to go through for the end result. And ultimately, if our job on the website is only to just say, I'm better than everybody else, well, that then assumes that the only people that are coming to the website are people that are hell-bent on getting the project done. Meaning, you don't have to convince them or show them or excite them about the possibilities of transforming their kitchen. They are already like, I'm going to get it with somebody. Is it you? And then that's when you're like, well, I'm better than everybody else. But ultimately, only a very small percentage of people are actually in the market right now to do the project. Most everybody else is just somewhere along the way of early on to maybe they are comparing options, but at the end of the day, our job with the website, is to get people excited. We want to show people the possibility of you can transform your space. This is what it could look like. And that's ultimately where these feature project pages come in. It is taking your projects, putting them on display, showing them off in a very beautiful way, and then telling the backstory behind it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and show you one of these pages. I have a bunch of them pulled up. They're all JobTread people. But I'm going to show you the page itself. I'm going to show you video first, and we're going to walk down the page, and then I'm going to explain how it comes to be. So instead of it breaking down like the framework up front and then showing the whole thing, I'm just going to kind of scroll through it and explain, show you what it's all about, and then teach you a little bit about the formula that actually goes into it. All right, here we go. I'm going to start off with a video. Just watch it. It's sick. All right. Can you hear it?
I'm Joe.
And I'm Taylor.
And this is our house in Roswell, Georgia. We bought the house in April of last year. The thought was to renovate the kitchen at some point.
It was dated, very cramped, very dark. We have toddlers at home, and the cooktop was in the center island, which wasn't the safest, and it's also not the cleanest.
Rainy Blair was referred to us through someone that we work with, that they work with them, so that was an easy decision.
I had the first meeting with Justin at Rainy Blair, and he gave us a general idea of what the scope of the project would be. And then when we met with Brett and did the design, once we saw the design come to life, I think that was what broke the camel's back for us. If we were like, wow, look at what this space could actually be. And there was no turning back at that point. We had to do it. We had to jump in.
We wanted more space. We wanted an island. We wanted a place to kind of hang out and gather in a kitchen. And literally the next week he sent us the renderings. We're like, yeah, that's exactly what we want. Just if you can do that, we'll take it.
And this is a space now that we want to be in and we want to enjoy. It's much brighter. It fits the house much better.
Now it's like, people come over and we're around the island most of the time, and the kids are eating at the island and we're cooking food. So we have the ability to do multiple things at the same time. And before we just didn't have that option. So, the rest of our house is great. It's just for whatever reason, everybody likes to hang out in the kitchen.
All right, so that video, I don't know if you noticed it, it follows a very specific storytelling framework. And this page also follows the same very specific storytelling framework. So I'm gonna give you the secret if you want. There's tons of books out there, but ultimately it's essentially storytelling 101. And I say it as not like you should know this, but it's just the basic foundational principle of storytelling is you're gonna have problem, solution, impact. That's it. Problem, solution, impact. In this case, as you're watching it, you may have caught it, you may have not, but a lot of this stuff is happening subtly, but it's the kitchen was cramped, it was too small, Rainy Blair came in, they went through it, they created a design, they loved it, and then now ultimately the space is it's bigger, it's brighter, and people now hang out in the space a lot more. That's your problem, that's your solution, and that's your impact. So that's what we are selling here. So if we're going in, and this is a $204,000 project, or just above that, this is not a cheap thing. All right, so we want to highlight the transformation because ultimately that is what most everybody here is selling. People aren't buying a new kitchen or a new outdoor living space or whatever it is because it's fun. They're doing it because of what they're gonna get on the other side of it. So in this case, they now have a whole place to entertain and they have a breakfast bar for their kids and stuff like that. That is what we wanna get across. So with that said, this is how one of these pages breaks down. So we're gonna go problem, solution, impact. All right, when we come in, and there's a YouTube video that we've done on this stuff, but ultimately what we're doing is we're coming in and we're just giving people a basic overview of this is what the rest of the page is gonna look like. All right, we could jump right into the problem side of things, but ultimately if you look at how CNBC or other news outlets are starting to give you news articles, they're actually starting off with that executive summary, because if you read it, the executive summary, and you're like, nah, I don't really want to read this article, you're going to skip past it, but you're probably going to skip past it anyway. So we're trying to just get the meat of the information up front as a bit of a preview, just to show somebody this is basically what it's going to look like. All right, so once we get past that piece, the next part is, what was the issue? What are we dealing with in this situation? So with them specifically, they had a dated kitchen, it was dark, it was a bad layout. We like to put a little bit of the black and white filter on this thing because it's kind of like that Sarah McLachlan, please adopt these animals situation. It just makes it feel a little bit worse, but ultimately it's kind of compared to the end result, it's not a great kitchen. They created these custom step stools and stuff like that, but for this couple, that dude is a pretty well-known dude around the Atlanta area. They wanted something a lot different. So what did we do? We came in. Step one was design. We worked closely with them and we actually talked about what the project could be. Step two was we built this bad boy out. Step three was now they get to enjoy it. So essentially what we're doing is two things here. One, we are showing people in this case, we actually have a process for this stuff, right? We're not just winging it every time. We actually know it starts with design, then we do it, then you get to love it. And that's basically what that is. So it shows prospects we actually have a formula, which a lot of us, it's watching, especially if you're a JobTread person, because that means that you're most likely going to be a systems person. A lot of you are, you're a software person. A lot of you are now becoming more and more systems people, because that's why you got a software to help you out with all this stuff, because you want to get better systems in place. So we want to show clients and prospects, hey, we actually have a system in place for this exact thing, and that's design, build, enjoy it. The other aspect here is design. All right, a lot of people, a lot of remodeling companies and design build companies, they sometimes get the challenge from people of like, I don't want to design. I don't get why we need a design. And ultimately, if we just start to continuously show that it's part of our process, then it's going to make it much easier. All right. In this case, what would have made this even better was having like the exact renderings or the layout or whatever that is. But ultimately, we just want to show people we have a design. We want to build this thing out, and then now you get to enjoy it. All right, so step by step by step. So that is actually the process part. Solution. Problem, solution, impact. Now we get to come down, show a couple of the cool features, and then ultimately, we're just showing off the project itself. That's it. All right, so all we have to do at this point is just highlight some cool stuff that we did. They had a dry bar. They had a really, bright and modern kitchen, super simple stuff. And then we're just showing all the nice images of the project. And that's basically what a feature project page is. All right. It's a very simple layout of the problem, the solution, the impact. But what this does is it, one, shows off to people like my wife, hey, can they do a project in the style that I wanted, and do they seem like they have their stuff together? That is ultimately what this is doing, but it's also getting people excited by showing off, especially if you have good photography, showing off the craftsmanship that is associated with all this stuff. All right? It works. These work so well. This is another one, Longacre. We just actually launched this. They're a new rebrand. It looks awesome, but same idea. We had a bit of a challenge going on. Here is our basic process, and then you go through the solution. So you'll see this across the board where there's different ways of doing it. Some people like to have the pricing. Some people just want to have no pricing associated with it. But ultimately, we want to highlight the actual problem, the process, the impact of it all, and that's really Feature Project Pages 101. So from a visual perspective, it's going to get people excited. They're also great where if you're on the phone with a prospect for the first time, before you just head out to do an estimate or whatever that looks like, you can actually walk people through these pages and just get a gauge for, what are you looking for? How does this look? I always like to do a fun thing of like, hey, can we just look at a couple projects that we've done together on our website? Because ultimately, if you think that they're ugly, this is going to be a very fast conversation. And then they laugh, and then you laugh. And it's the same joke that works every single time, but it then drives people to go back there and actually want to see what is it all about? Like, what are you actually able to offer me? And then that way, if it's presented well, people will also see that you are serious about their projects, but you're not just focused only on the end result of the project because we're highlighting the customer themselves. It shows that you are empathetic towards the actual customer that you're working with because you knew what the problems were. You weren't there just for a transaction. You were there for a transformation. So before we walk through basically how some of this stuff comes to be, are there any questions that I can help answer around the feature project page side of things? Problem, solution, impact. Does anybody have these? And if you have great photos, that's step one, and we'll go through that in a second. Not just having it where it's here's a gallery of an individual thing. We want to tell the basic story of it all. That's half the battle here because it shows that empathetic side.
Do people need to have a professional photographer do these or?
Oh, great question. The answer is yes. 9 times out of 10. So here's why. Our goal, and everybody's goal, is to get more referral quality leads as best as possible. All right, if we can get referral quality leads, it's game on for everybody's businesses. But the problem here is that what typically happens offline is different than what happens online. Meaning, if you go offline, you sell in this way, and every time you do this thing, it always works. And then you go to your website, and it's right back to the generic marketing stuff that may work, may not work, but it's completely different than what actually works in your process. So this is how we want to do this online. When it comes to the actual idea of what makes referrals become referrals is typically they're in the space first. So back to a kitchen example, what that is your customer just got a kitchen done by you. They love it, and what do they do with it? They invite people over to have a dinner party at the house. Well, now their friends are oohing and eyeing all through this kitchen, and they're able to like touch the countertops and actually see the craftsmanship that's associated with it. So they're actually able to be in the space. It's like a more intimate setting, if you will. It's kind of like in like the car sales world, like they have a phrase that's the feel of the wheel seals the deal. It's car salesmen know, like you walk in and, hey, can I help you? Oh no, I'm just looking. It's like, well, great. Like just sit in the car, right? Just sit in it. Just see if you even like it. And then you sit in it, and next thing happens is, well, let's just test drive it. Like you don't have to buy it, you don't have to do anything, but just like see if it even drives well. And then next thing you know, it's let's just look at financing options. You don't have to buy anything, but at least you get to go home with some numbers. And ultimately, they know that it's just step one. If they can get you into that car, then it's a lot easier to progress you down that sales funnel for them, because you're slowly getting more and more excited because you get to drive it. Now you're experiencing what it would look like to actually own this car. Same thing in your world, where you're actually in the space, you're in the kitchen, you're feeling it, you're seeing your friends who just had this kitchen redone using it. It creates this whole level of excitement. On top of that, you actually get to spend time with your friend who you trust, you know them for a while. So if they're gonna hire Eric's remodeling company and I trust my buddy, well then if A equals B and B equals C, it's much easier because you already have that connection. So you know that if they're gonna hire them, then it's probably a good idea for me to hire them as well. And then lastly, you typically know price points around this stuff. You may not know exactly what they spent on this kitchen, but you know kind of like what the person makes, and are they more stingy? Are they more, lavish with their spending? So you kind of have a good heat check of what this stuff could cost. So ultimately, you want to take that excitement, that trust with the person, and that educational knowledge around what this stuff actually could cost, how long it takes, and you want to replicate that online. And to do that, the number one thing, and I'm a website person, but photos are going to be the number one thing that's going to help you out here. When you have good photos, it changes the game for everything. Like all the projects that I showed you right there, those were all professionally captured photos. All right, iPhone photos, especially the higher level that you go in project, like what the actual job size is going to be, the more important that these photos are going to be. And there's a difference between a real estate photographer and like an interior design photographer. And that's real estate is going to show the wide angle and just show like what the space could look like. Interior design is going to focus more on the lines and the craftsmanship. And that's ultimately where the excitement comes from when they're in the space, but now we're getting to put that online. So a professional photographer is worth their weight in gold. Every client that comes to us, we are very pushy, I would say. I don't know a lack of a better term, where I'm like, look, I'll give you a free JobTread page if you go out and hire a professional photographer, because that's going to make the website pop that much more. Professional photographers are fantastic. They create that excitement. They would get my wife to look at the projects and buy, versus if you take them on your own, especially even if you have like a nice camera, it just doesn't do the same thing. Get nice photos. With that, now we have the excitement from the project photos. Then we actually want to tell the stories of the clients, right? That's all storytelling. So the more that we can highlight that this is the situation that this couple went through online, the more that if my wife and I are in a similar situation where, this couple had 2 kids, I'm about to have a second kid. So now I'm like, well, that's kind of like me. They're a little bit older, but like only by a couple years. They have a nice kitchen. I like nice kitchens. So it's much easier for me to now put myself in their shoes. So as I'm, going down this page, I feel like I'm in a similar situation as them. And what this does is if these pages are done correctly and you know who your ideal client is, it should actually appeal to your ideal client. Because if I see a page like this and it's two older people, like that wouldn't necessarily make me feel like I'm in this exact person's shoes. It would, it'd still look like a great project, but from a storytelling perspective, we want the people reading this to feel like they're now part of this project because we're taking them along the problem, solution, and the impact side of things. And then lastly, it's all a comfort thing, but if we can essentially pre-qualify a little bit and educate on timelines and ballpark pricing or exact pricing, things like that. Now, because these are like the most popular pages on these websites, people are coming in and actually seeing the work itself, the stories behind it, and then timing, pricing. So they're not coming in thinking, oh, this kitchen is probably going to be 40 grand. They know that this is going to be a chunk of change. So this is what your actual like referrals are already having offline. Our goal now is to put more of this online. So we're now kind of replicating that process online and not just offline. Does that make sense? Can I just get in the chat box, yes or no? I want to make sure that I'm like explaining this correctly. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes. Okay, perfect. And basically, to do this, what you really want to build this stuff out, and so I'm now going back to the beginning of how it all works, is you first need to understand who are you actually appealing to? Who is your ideal client? Because you don't have to have a CGN website or work with us to like do this stuff. You can do it, but you ultimately need to understand who are you actually going after. And to figure that out, the easiest way to do this is just look at your past customers that you've already worked with. Is there somebody that you would love to just copy and paste? All right, where you are just saying, if I could do that project for that type of person over and over and over again, that is going to make my life so much easier. When we do that, that then actually allows us to reverse engineer how that person was thinking. Because a lot of times what people like to do is go, well, it's somebody like this. It's somebody who is good with the money, they trust me, they're not going to stand over my crew's shoulder and watch the whole time. They're going to kind of allow us to do our thing. That kind of speaks more in like vague terms. So like this is when we work with somebody, we go through a whole like, workshop, if you will, where I'm like walking through step by step. Did this with a JobTread person today, actually. Walk me through this person. Okay, what was important to them in the process of trying to hire a contracting company? Was it that they had designs? Was it this? So ultimately, understanding exactly who your ideal client is going to be one of the most impactful things, because in Rainey Blair Weidman's case, they know that they kind of go after people that could potentially be on the younger side. All right, it's not 20-year-olds, but people that are probably in their late 30s up to mid 50s. So we also want to make sure that we're showing people in their late 30s on the website. So understanding the ideal client is like the number one thing to start off with, because then it allows you to appeal more to them. And the easiest thing to do is if you want to sell, homes, the custom homes that are $3 million, the easiest thing to do is to show online homes that are $3 million, because you're going to appeal to the exact type of person that would buy that thing. From there, understand the USP. This is like tougher, I would say, but it's really just, what is your solution to that problem? If we do this with like these JobTread pages where a lot of contractors say, look, like I communicate really well. I'm good at communicating on the project. And when we ask, well, what does that mean? Because how many of your competitors are also saying we communicate well? Everybody says they communicate well. So what can you do to actually stand out? Well, we use JobTread. Okay, well, that's great. Like we can now show that we're actually using this thing to solve the communication issue. So if you understand who your ideal client is and what they're actually looking for, and then you're able to say, hey, I do all those things that you want me to do, and let me show you how I do them, then it becomes much easier to then see if your marketing or sales are off, because it's just, they have a problem, do I have the right solution for them? And then that's when the media comes in, great photos, get people excited, you build the website around it, and then ongoing marketing of the SEO, the ads, all of that stuff. So ultimately, all of this stuff starts at who are you actually going after? What are the services? What are the locations that you want to be in? How do they think? Are they old? Are they young? It's all that stuff. It's not necessarily like, do they go to Costco or not? But it's like, what is actually important to them? And the easiest way to figure that out is just to look at your past customers, pick your favorite one, but then maybe pick your top 3 and see if there's any similarities in what they really enjoyed. And then that becomes a huge part of how do you now figure out what are you doing to solve that problem, make it great for them, and then all your marketing and everything from there just becomes like your foundational pieces of showing people this is who you are, this is the problem that we solve, this is how we solve it, this is how we get you excited, and then it's game on from there. So that is basically feature project pages in a nutshell. They're pretty straightforward. Anybody can do them. The number one thing that you just need to do is have great photos and understand your clientele. You can put them up on your website. They're really good for SEO as well, especially nowadays. Like Google is loving to see that people have experience actually doing the thing that they say they can do. So if you're actually showing off, we did this kitchen project in this area, people like it, Google likes it, so it's helping a lot on that side and allowing people to stand out a lot. So every single time I do one of these webinars, I go way over. So on this one, I decided to undershoot it, and then I can open it up for a Q&A. So that's what I got.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Yeah, let's see what questions does everyone have, and maybe while some of those are coming in, I mean, you referred to the kind of the JobTread, pages that you do. I mean, are there any that you'd be able to show off? Because I think that's a really powerful tool, for people to be able to include. And I think you do a really great job incorporating all of that.
Yeah. So ultimately, what we want to do is just like with these feature project pages, we just want to show people like this is what it looks like to work with us. It's we're going to stay connected through it. So like this all kind of stemmed from a lot of our job at CGN is to understand what are the things that you're already doing offline, and then how can we concretely show it online? Again, trying to get away from, like, hey, staying connected through your project. Like we want to show off, like Chris Morales wants to show off that we're going to talk through it. Everybody says that. Every single contracting company says, don't worry, we're going to get you squared away. So our job is to now make the sure, like the proof's in the pudding, right? Your website is ultimately like, we look at it as the resume for your business. So just like with a resume, you want to highlight all of the great stuff about you. And one of those things is, let's say on a resume, you have the soft skills section that just says, I communicate well. That's a waste. Versus like if you said like, I got the top communication award at my last company, like now I don't know what the top communication award really means, but ultimately you won it. So clearly you are doing something that's probably more communicative than others. So essentially what we're trying to do is take the stuff that you're doing with JobTread. If you're doing daily updates or communicating, or you're showing Gantt charts and stuff like that, everybody says, oh, we treat customers really well. But the person that can prove it is the one that's ultimately going to win. So that's where these come in, where you can actually highlight what you're doing, how you're doing it, show the actual process through it all. That's what these pages are all about. I think Rainy Blair are about to start theirs. I think they're making updates on this. Of course, this happens. It's the same idea. It's Gantt charts. It's all that stuff. So that's basically what this looks like, is going through and updating this to show off the concrete pieces.
Yeah, I really love how, you guys, obviously we've provided some of the kind of sample, hey, here's some screenshots, but like you guys actually go into, the client's JobTread.org and find real, screenshots and content that really kind of make it very personal to that contractor versus taking just, Anna's, demo content, screenshots. I think it really takes it to the next level.
Yeah, and that's like a big part of this is like we don't like, because Anna has like the visuals for it, but like we want to show like the real thing. So
Yeah.
like with like Peter, like we're about to build one out for him, and I'm like, hey, who was a good client? That would be a great example, because if we can, we'd also like to show the communication, the Gantt chart, that all that stuff from the same client, because it's a story, right? It'd be weird if I was like, let me show you this of our project, this before of a kitchen, this design rendering of a bathroom, and then this after of a home edition. You're like, that's not even the same project. So if we could, we'd like to keep it all the same, because again, it's going to tell that story from the same client's perspective. So that's the idea of those pages.
And just put Andrew Newfer's example in the chat there. I mean, I think it's another great one that.
Yeah, AKN. Yeah, that was the first one that we did, and that was just like, we just hit him up like, Andrew, can we build a page for you? London said our before photos and videos are usually cell phone quality. Befores are fine for that. Like befores, you don't need a professional photographer for befores. Don't worry about that. You just want to show like, this is where it came from. It's kind of like, if you're about to join a weight loss program and you see some ripped person, if you then see a before of them being like way overweight, you're like, oh my gosh, like that's a great transformation, versus like if they went from a 4-pack to a 6-pack, it's not as impactful. So you just want to show the befores just to highlight like, this is what was this was the transformation that was happening. Logan, can you show feature project pages for new construction? Hell yeah, those are great. I mean, this is like, when I walk around my neighborhood, there's a lot of like new builds going up. Well, Patrick, let me ask you, when we say new construction, is this like track home, or is this going to be like a new custom home that we're building? I'll wait, and then I'll come back to that one. Jess, would you say your company website is more important than your Instagram page, or do you think they're equal weight, or is Instagram less important? So ultimately, Instagram is going to be, your website is going to be the most important piece of everything. With these pages specifically, a lot of times on Instagram, what will happen is people don't know what to post. So essentially what we want to do is take projects, like take these photos, and then actually post them to Instagram, and then say, hey, if you want to see the full project, go hit our link in bio, and this page is there. So now what they're doing is you're taking them from social media, which is meant to be pretty and exciting and like, very high stimuli, if you will, and send them right back to the website, because the website then paints you in a great light, and now they're on your resume, right? So that is what we want to do. So you want them both, but they have two very different functions. But the website is where people are going to make their big decisions. It's like, I mean, I don't know the last time I bought a plane ticket on my phone. I still go to a computer to look at this stuff. Like, I wouldn't buy a plane ticket off of, like a Instagram account. So like, people are still going to want to fill out the contact form and everything on your website. So make sure that you still have a website, but you can draw the two together.
We have a question over here in the Q&A. I don't know if you have that open, but
I don't have that open.
By showing customers project pricing, don't you cut off some customers that can be converted by convincing and earning trust?
100%. There are going to be those customers that look at your pricing and go, oh man, like 204, like I'm not, like I would never spend that, and then they would never reach out. Because maybe they were thinking 100, but a lot of times it's people that are coming in that are way off base, and we're never going to convert anyway. So 100%, when you show pricing in there, it does add friction to the process. At the same time, you're also going to have people that are like, wow, nobody else shows pricing. I want to talk about this, because a lot of times, they're getting different offers from different people. It's not that people are afraid of spending money, they're afraid of getting ripped off. So if we're the ones going first saying, this is the project, this is what it costs, then now we're being seen as more transparent up front. So that's kind of the idea. So if you want to get more people in the door, you don't have to add pricing, because there is going to add that friction. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, it's all kind of moving that way anyway, of like showing off pricing, where CarMax did this 20 years ago with cars, and now you don't walk into the dealership without pretty much knowing the exact price and breakdown of a car. everything's kind of moving that way because people pretty much know what stuff costs, and remodeling is not going to be much different.
Oh. I see. So Patrick it's a custom and luxury home builder is his business.
Yeah. Let me see. So this is luxury. They do. Let me see. I know one of these is a home. Yeah, I think this one. So here's a custom home that was built. You can show all this stuff off. It's the same ideas. What did it start from? Here is the backstory. Here's a little bit of the project. What would be perfect here is if we just had a blank slate. But this is the closest to the befores that we have. Again, it's the design, the build, and the final thing. And then now you get to show off some of the individual pieces of the project itself. This client, they do really nice stuff. Like I think their homes are like $1,200 a square foot, like pretty nice stuff. And then you get to show it off here. This is literally what Zillow is like just replicating all that and just showing it all off in the right way. So that's what we're after, is just being able to tell that story to people of like, this is what life could look like if you work with us. The more that you put energy into these things, the more that people will assume you really care about this stuff, because it's, I walk in my neighborhood and I see these new homes going up and they have like a QR code that's like, check out what this project could be. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And I scan it and it's just like one rendering. And I'm like, well, that's not selling it at all. Like if somebody would have not just put the social media intern on this thing, like they could probably sell this home a lot faster because you're showing everything off. But you can do this for these. Hell, you can even do these with Devin. We're going to do this as like a test to see what it's like, but on like live homes that they're actually building, putting a QR code on like the project sign and just says like, hey, if you want to follow along with this build, let us know. But you scan it and it takes you right to the renderings and a little bit about like who the designer is, who the builder is, who the architect is, stuff like that. And then just updating it as the different phases happen of like, here's the latest of what's been done. So ultimately, once that's done, it then flips into a final feature project page with the final photos, but it's like a journey the whole way. And that's like going to be incredible for like foot traffic.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to follow along and, I got a bunch of homes going up in my street and it's like, you always feel a little bit awkward going and walking through somebody else's home while it's getting built, but it'd be really neat to be able to follow along.
Just see, because like once you put like the padlock on the door, because you're like doing the final stuff, like now you're like locked out, but if you can show it along the way, like it's so much nicer. So yeah, you can get creative with this stuff, but ultimately your goal is if you do beautiful stuff, it's got to look beautiful. It's got to get people excited. It's got to like say like, this is the type of person that is buying this thing from us by telling that story. And if your prospect is finding that thing, this is like if a referral said, hey, you should reach out to them. Actually, they did like a walkthrough on my project. Like that's going to make it that much more impactful. So all it really is beautiful design, great storytelling. And that's just going to be the name of the game as people get more and more into transparency in business. So it's not going away. Jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah, I'm curious, just, everyone maybe in the chat, like how do you, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, like how would you grade your own website in terms of, how is it performing? Is it, your best, tool, your customer facing? Like, do you feel like it's representing your brand? Is it something that you're very proud of? You showcase your customers' projects and the work that you're doing? Just curious kind of where everyone would give themselves their self-grade here.
The way that I look at it is like, if you look at your website and somebody said, hey, tell me about your company, and you said, oh, I'm so sorry, I got to run out, but if you go to my website, that will tell you everything you need to know. That is where that idea of like the online storefront or like the resume comes in. Yeah. So if you can look at it, and just like with a resume, it's, you want to show off like the latest skills that you have. Well, the latest skills that you have could be in the latest projects that you've done, or the contact information on the resume is the contact page on the website, or so it's all like aligning it up. So before with a resume, you go out and you just put it into the hands of a bunch of hiring managers. The website's the same thing. You're putting this into the hands of all your prospects. it's the same idea. So if you think about it as this is the resume for my business, this is what is representative of when somebody finds me, like I'm proud to show this stuff off. That is ultimately what the goal is. So when you like grade it, just think about it as this is your resume for your business.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so important. I mean, just again, guys, I cannot recommend enough. Like, you need to invest in a great website that is going to represent your brand, that is going to help you convert these leads into customers. I see a lot of people that will try to go at it, do their own, with Wix or Squarespace or whatever, and it's like, this isn't necessarily your forte, and that's okay. You don't have to hire someone or wait until you bring on a full-time person to be able to tackle this. Like, we have great partners like Logan here, and I have seen the impact firsthand on what they've been able to do with businesses by coming in here, either creating them a website or revamping their website. I mean, it seriously, it can work wonders for your business and for your leads, and just being able to continue to attract people. Like, this is how you keep getting those high quality leads that you're able to then beat out the competition and convert into customers. So, that's my little plug for, like, I think this is one of the most important things for any business, is that you have the best possible website. That is your face. That is the first impression that you are making on every single lead that ever finds out about your business. Like, you've got to have a great, forward-facing website there.
Yeah, because I know what it was like with my wife when I was like at first referring her like to the websites around the area, and it was from people that like I had seen their yard signs a lot. And what I would do is, it was so funny, I would like send her the website of the remodeling company, and I'd be like, look, I know that the website doesn't look great, but just move past that. And I was like finding myself, as referring this site over to my wife, like defending the company. I had no idea who the company, I didn't know them, but I just seen their signs so much. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're credible. Like, so I'm like defending their choice of website, because I knew my wife was just going to be like, what are you sending me right now? So even from like a referral standpoint, like people still look at this stuff. It's super impactful. So, hey, Callan. Yeah. So that's my thing, guys. Like, these pages, even with the rest of the website, like there's a bunch of other stuff that, we could talk about, but these are like the number 2 thing on your site after the homepage, because they are that important. People love them that much. Like, you need to get this stuff dialed in, get great photo, know who you're going after, get great photos, and then tell the story in a cohesive way. And I mean, I was talking to this guy today, and he was just like, Nick was like, yeah, I pre-qualify with these. Clients call me up, I walk them through this stuff, we get on the same page, and then I go out. So it's meant to be a sales enablement tool as well, not just from the marketing side. So super multifaceted, they're great.
Would you recommend, I mean, if someone wanted to start running ads, to me, these seem like great, landing pages and great to be able to use in ads. Would you recommend that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do. So once you get past like your SEO phase of like get people that are close, the video ads are, most people, what they'll do is they'll take a project, post it online, and then say, hey, we just did this kitchen. If you want this, call me. It's too early on. So what you actually want to do is you actually want to send these, like the videos and the photos from that project to that project page and say, hey, we just, you're in, this neighborhood. We just did this project in this neighborhood. If you want to see it, go check it out. And because you have like that neighbor feel of like, we're in this space, that's what we want to show off. So it's getting people over to that. And then from there, it's not doing a hard sell, which is what most people are thinking with ads. They're like, I ran an ad, cost $1,000, I didn't get anything. Social media, they're not going there to necessarily like find a remodeling company. They're going there to be entertained, and the best way to entertain them is to show off beautiful work. Like your work is like meant for social media. Like it was created for that because it's entertaining to people. So show them the story of the full project, and then from there you can retarget off that and go, hey, everybody who clicked on this, show them this testimonial. So you're like now driving them down the funnel, but it's necessary to get them over to learn more about the story and more about the transformation that could happen, more so than just, here's a cool photo, call us. Like there needs to be an actual like strategy in place for this to work.
So I see Jess here said, our website needs an overhaul. we've been focusing too much on Instagram. She didn't give a 1 to 10 grade of it there, but like, can you tell, like, I mean, what's the process? How long does it take for, for someone to come in and work with you and basically get a new website, such as Jess here, if she wants a full overhaul?
Yeah, so we do like a full like design, like we're like designing all this stuff. So the first thing is conversation around, we fill out a whole form that goes through your ideal client, the services, the location, all that stuff. So you go through it all. And then from there, you go through what we call as the design phase, where we're going to go through and identify what does the website need, who's your client? If you're sitting here saying, I'm really good at aging in place, but we probably want to make sure that when we design the site, it's not going to be small font. It's going to be larger font, and we're not going to have a lot of animation. We're going to make it more straightforward so it's easy to click on and stuff like that. So that's kind of like what that process looks like to make sure that the website is appealing to them. It's typically about a 3-month process because of, well, 1, lead time, but also 2, that design process because, we work with you on photos. So we have clients that were like, look, go, I will find a photographer in your area, go work with them, and then get photos back. That takes some time to happen as well. So it takes about 3 months. A lot of that is lead time, but we handle it from there. It's a pretty, I don't know. I didn't want to get, what's so funny, when I first started the marketing agency, like I never wanted to do websites. And then once we went through a couple website builds for my dad's company, I was like, oh man, this is a bigger issue than I thought. Like, I remember the first one, it was a guy, it took 6 months for him to build out the website, and then he messaged us and said, hey, it's done, check it out. And we were so excited, and we went online and we saw there was no photos, there's no text, no nothing. And we're like, where's the rest of it? And he was like, oh no, you guys have to do all that. And we're like, what? Why didn't you tell us that 6 months ago? Like, we would have had this ready to go already. So we handle all that for you because we recognize that copy, the words on the website, it's the whole thing. We do interviews with you to figure out what the flow needs to be, all that kind of stuff. So 3 months is your answer.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, any other questions? Well, we got Logan here about to hit the top of the hour, so I just want to make sure we got any last burning things that you want to ask.
Do you have an opinion on stock images? I would just not do them as best as possible, Matthew. Like if you're stuck in a bind, we still use them on some clients' websites. We try to use them as sparingly as possible. My best suggestion on stock images, if you are going to go that route, don't go, if you're in nowhere, Nebraska, don't put up a New York City skyline in the background. Like it's going to be very obvious that it is not the same company doing it. Because if you put up too stocky of images, it's going to build distrust, which is like worse than having no images. So make sure that they align with what you're able to do and what the market wants. Otherwise, it's a mismatch. Good budget cost to go through a website. Yep, website, simple one, which is like a single page site, $6,000. A more in-depth one starts at 15. Yeah, I'd say probably average is probably close to like 18 to 20 for a website. Cool. If someone works with you and you deem the current hosting is bad, is there a way to convert that? Sean, what do you mean by hosting? Do you mean just like the platform that the website's like? Do you mean hosting like it's on Squarespace or Wix, or do you mean hosting like it's on a slow server? Callan said we use stock images for social. Is that okay? I would not for social. I would post. I would not on social, especially because you don't. I just wouldn't do it. Website's a little bit different because you could like, it's a little bit more common, but on social, I wouldn't do it. Will we have to get a new website or rebuild my existing one, Brian? It all depends on what the current setup is. Not everybody needs a new website, right? If it's good, it's good. In some situations, you can build on the foundation. In some situations, it's like, I don't know, with a new deck, we'll say, like, can you replace all the boards, or is it cheaper just to knock the whole thing down and start all over? That's kind of where it's all dependent of what actually needs to be done. I would say in 95% of cases, we end up just rebuilding it because it's much faster and it's a better situation versus trying to build on top of what's already there. But we've also done it where we build on what's already there because it would be more costly and take more time to build it from scratch. So it kind of all depends on the situation. Sean said exactly, like it's on Wix. Wix is not the best. It depends on what you want it for. From like an SEO perspective, Wix is not the best compared to like a WordPress. So if you're trying to get more people to the website and more leads, I would definitely move it away from Wix. If your main thing is, I don't care about any of that, I just want a website that is easy for you to build yourself, then Wix is going to be a better option than maybe a WordPress. So kind of depends on the situation, but we do not build on Wix. If somebody comes to us and they're on Wix, we will then rebuild it on WordPress.
And are all of your websites fully responsive, so they work on any size device?
Yep, fully responsive. We go through, it's part of our QA process to pull up every single screen size. There's like 6 of them that you go through to make sure that it resizes correctly.
Perfect.
Cool. Guys, biggest thing I could say is like the takeaway is get good photos of your work. They are worth their weight in gold. Get these pages up on the site. They are so important from a client's perspective. My wife would not hire you if you did not have these pages. In fact, I even showed her the Rainy Blair one. I'll show you my favorite kitchen that they've done. It's so sick. I showed her this one, and I swear to you, her response was, should we just hire the most expensive person in Charlotte? And I was like, okay, look, like we could probably find somebody who's good that isn't necessarily the most expensive if that's your criteria. But I'm telling you, these things are like freaking magic if you have great photos of your work.
Yeah.
Matthew said, do you have an opinion on how testimonials are on your site? Yeah, I would. Let me see if they don't have them on this one. On some, yeah, I mean, I would have them throughout the site, like on this. If you have a testimonial from this exact person, you would want to put it right there on the page. It just makes it kind of closes the loop. So you can do that. You can have a testimonials page, but I would definitely have it. I think it's. Let me see if they have them. Like this. So this is what we use, Matthew, where it's like even having like the verified by trust index, it's, just makes it even more transparent. So this is just a plugin that we use that links directly to, I think just Google, but the developers would know more. But yeah, it's good to have these because it shows transparency.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, guys, look, anyone wants to, get in touch with Logan, obviously we shared out the website. You can find him on the JobTread marketplace as well. If you're on the fence, you're not sure, I'm sure he'd be happy to take a look at your existing website, give you his, feedback and thoughts on it. So, please do use Logan. He is a phenomenal resource. I have seen him work with countless contractors that he has made a big impact on their business. I'm sure he's got tons of references. If you'd like to speak to any of them, I'd be happy to share that. So again, appreciate everybody coming out today, spending this time to, learn a little bit more about how you can use storytelling and how you can use your projects to really showcase your best work to be able to help convert more prospects into hopefully customers who are ultimately raving about you, and you can then share their projects on your website as well. So thank you.
It's a whole loop. That's exactly the best part is you just appeal to it, new project, boom, you get it up there. Now you got your latest and greatest. It's like the cycle that just never ends. So it's great.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Logan.
Thanks, you guys.
Everyone.